very another episode of Vishal Vishwakarma, and today in this episode we're going to talk about the two kinds of entrepreneurships or the business models that we have whenever we are about to start a new business. So we need to core deeply understand what are these two kinds of the businesses. For example, what kind of business are you going to get into? Because until unless you don't know these two kinds of the business models that all the businesses go through it, you cannot predetermine what will be the scale, what will be the branding strategies, what will be the investment and everything. How would you get the money back? Because most of the times what I have seen people around, they are investing into a business and after a certain while they say, oh, I'm not getting money. Okay, you are not getting money, but you need to understand what kind of business are you investing into. So without further ado, let's start with the first kind of the model. So the first kind of the model is that is known as the SME. So this is an SME model. So SME stands for small medium enterprise. So small medium enterprise is a very important kind of a business model that most entrepreneurs usually tend to move on to or try to do it. For example, freelancing businesses, for example, small consultancy businesses. These are SMEs. Or else restaurant businesses, local market businesses, whatsoever. If you have anything that is local market business, that is an SME, small medium enterprise or small medium entrepreneurship. So SME, what does these two things stand for? The first thing, let's suppose this is this is your time constant, the time. So time, this is your time constraint, and this is your money constraint. So money, investments, money we are considering with the investment part. Okay, so what's gonna happen right into the SME is suppose I'm starting up a restaurant business. So restaurant business is a very good business. We get the profit from the very initial investment. Okay, for example, I have in $100K of investment. $100K of investment, that's around $1 lakh. Okay. So we are starting with an 100K investment. Now what's happening into the restaurant world and the local market businesses? Whenever we start, our investments start to give us the profits as per time. This scale is for the time and we are into the positive scale always. Whatsoever our investment is always. So we get this money back in respect to the time. We are getting, with respect to the time, we are getting money. Even though if we have put in small amount of investment, we get something back. That means the SMEs start to get the return on the investment very soon as they invest into that business. But there is a limitation to that. For example, I'm into a restaurant business and I have invested in 100K into it, $100K into it, and after a certain while I get to a stability, I'm now earning around, let's say 500K on an average every month from my business. So that usually comes down to a stability model. This graph shows, most commonly this graph goes this way. This is the most essential thing into the SME. It starts to give you the income at the very first moment of your investment, but it gets stable around, or the average return that you get onto this kind of businesses gets stabilized onto a certain level of point. And you might fluctuate a little bit, you might tend to see a little bit of fluctuations at this point, but it will almost get settled down at a certain average point. So this is the difference. This is the core concept of SME. Now what's the second kind of business? The second kind of business model is the mostly what that is regarded for the global markets. If you are trying to go into the global markets, this is the kind of the business model or the business that is known as IDE. So IDE stands for Innovation Driven Entrepreneurship. So innovation driven entrepreneurship, what do I mean by that? Okay, This means businesses like WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Google, these are all kind of businesses that are global market related. So this is an IDE. You have got something, an idea, unique idea, you are about to spread it. Okay, but it requires money. It requires money to build the business. It requires money from the investors. It requires money from the different investment sources. Or if you have a capital amount from your family, you can get into the investment. But it requires you to develop the idea, execute onto the idea. These kind of businesses are the pre-planned businesses. For example, restaurant businesses. It's not for the first time into the world we are about to do the restaurant business. Thousands of people, lakhs of people, crores of people have already done it. We just need to replicate the same plan, same idea. Maybe a little bit of differences into the cuisines, into the lighting, in the ambience, in the kind of services that we are providing. Okay, this is pre-planned, already replicated models. But this is a unique concept. TikTok, Instagram, so Tesla, anything. If it comes down from innovation, if it is your unique idea, it comes down to IDE. But what's the bad part of IDE? Once again, same factors, money and time. This is the most important factor, by the way, my friends. The most important factors. What happens from the very beginning of the investment, you tend to lose money. The graph goes somewhat this way. This is the initial graph of IDE. This part over here, this is the major part that is very hard to sustain because you go into the negative cash flow. All your investments are going to the negative cash flow, the negative. So, a major amount of time, with respect to the time, you're going to spend a major amount of time into the negative cash flow in building your businesses. You'll have no money in return. Your business idea will be only sucking in the money. It will only take in the money, but you will get nothing in return, and you would even never have an expectation to get that money back very soon. Because if you consider the businesses like WhatsApp, if you consider the business like Instagram, Amazon India, these all companies have a very good business model, but what's happening with them is like they are into the negative cash flows for a very long period of times. In India, Amazon India stood for a very long period of time into the negative cash flow. So what's happening over here is like these companies, because they are branding up, because they are scaling it up to the wider levels, so the systems they are creating, it takes time. It takes money, it takes energy, everything it takes in. But as compared to this limitation over here, the stability point into the SME, we have a very unique thing, and that is the most popping culture into the IDE. If you tend to get the profits, it will start from this very point and it will exceed exponentially. This is the exponential growth, my friends. This is the exponential growth. It continues to grow. It continues to grow always. Now, this is the most beautiful part of IDE. Once it starts to grow, it will exponentially grow until and unless till the end of the time. For example, Google, they invested a lot of time without any capital, without any return on the capital investments, and now Google is something that no one can beat it. Facebook, they invested a lot of money. Take the best of the best example like WhatsApp. WhatsApp poured in a lot of money. They never earned any money. Not from the subscription, not from the advertisers, not from any other else. They only poured in the money to develop their application. And what was the deal? WhatsApp got sold for $19 billion. $19 billion, one of the biggest amount of transaction ever happened. The sale ever happened into the entrepreneurial and business world. So this was the tipping point for WhatsApp, because once things start to grow, you can never ever stop it. And what are the more pros and cons about it? IDEs are very importantly and very easily scalable scalable. You can scale it to any level. But these businesses, small medium enterprises, have a very limitation. They are limited to the local markets, and these are generally built for the global markets. So it's very important to decide what your business is. Whether are you starting into the SME or whether you're going for the IDE. Because if you're going for the IDE, be ready for the negative cash flow and the debts. Because man, it would take time to get into the positives. But if you are into IDE kind of businesses, it will take time. It will take time. So hold on. Be into the positive side. Like, you will tip from the negatives to the positives. If you are about to start into the SME, you will get the profits very soon. Sorry for that. You will get very soon the profits. But if you are into the IDE, it will take time. So my friends, this was the important lessons that I wanted to give out to you all today, because most times we start to get into a business world and we try to find out like whether I would get return very soon or not. So try to analyze which category you lie into it, and this will make your projections and predictions more easy for you to go. So my friends, this was all this lesson for you all today. So if you want any more questions, if you have any more questions, and if you have any more doubts about business world or anything else, please put down into the comments below, and stay tuned. Meet you in the next video. Goodbye.